Hey there, and welcome back to Silent Husband Club. We know it's been a while since our last story. Thank you for your patience. From now on, we'll be working hard to bring you a new video every single day. Let's dive in. What if the person you trusted most wasn't just lying, but strategically plotting your downfall? What if the home you built with love was part of a blueprint not for your future, but for your betrayal? This isn't just a story of infidelity, it's a quiet war, and the first shot? 4 words, don't touch me, Ethan. If this story pulls you in, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It really helps grow our community and ensures you never miss a new upload. Don't touch me, Ethan. She said it like I was something dirty. Like my hand, midair, was a threat. Just inches from her shoulder, a shoulder I touched 1,000 times without thought. In comfort. In love. In passing. But now it was in no man's land. And just like that, I understood something had shifted beyond repair. I didn't lash out. I didn't cry. I didn't demand an explanation. I simply nodded once, turned around, and walked down the hallway to the guest bedroom. I didn't say a word. But that silence? It thundered. It screamed everything I couldn't yet bring myself to say. That night, I lay in a bed that had never felt like mine, too firm, too cold, the linen still carrying the faint scent of unopened boxes. We bought this house 4 years ago, as a temporary stop before the dream home we planned to build. We'd laughed in this room while painting the walls, called it the maybe nursery, tossed extra pillows on the bed in case guests ever came. But I had never slept in it. Not until now. Not until I had to. Above me, the ceiling fan spun like a clock with no time. I stared at it for hours, while the words "don't touch me" echoed through my skull like an accusation. But what stung more wasn't the words. It was the look in her eyes when she said them. That wasn't anger. That wasn't irritation. That was disgust. Revulsion. And the question that tortured me, kept me motionless on that stiff mattress: why? Looking back now, the signs were all there. So clear, it's almost insulting how blind I was. Late nights at the office she never used to have. Clothes that carried cologne I didn't wear. Her phone flipping screen down every time I walked into a room. Like she was guarding a secret. Hiding a version of herself I wasn't allowed to see. But love makes you stupid. No, not stupid, willingly blind. You choose not to see because the truth threatens the very ground you stand on. Sloan and I had spent years designing our dream home. It was more than walls and windows. It was a future. A promise. 3 bedrooms for the kids we'd talked about but hadn't yet had. A big wraparound porch where we'd sip coffee in old age. A maple tree in the backyard with space for a tire swing. We'd walk that land, hand in hand, and talk about Christmas lights and garden beds like we were scripting a shared dream. And I worked for it. God, I worked for it. 55-hour weeks at Whitestone Studio, pouring every bonus check, every overtime hour into a joint account we labeled the Build Fund. She contributed too, I won't deny that, but the lion's share came from me. From my missed weekends. From skipped vacations. From late nights drafting designs while she watched her shows in the other room. And the morning after she flinched from my hand like I was a stranger, she was humming in the kitchen. Humming. Stirring creamer into her coffee and scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. Like the night before hadn't existed. She looked up and said, almost cheerfully, "I'm thinking marble for the countertops. Cole says it can boost resale value by at least 15%. Cole. Our contractor. That name floated in the air between us like smoke. I stared at her. I remember saying, sounds expensive. Just that. Calm. Controlled. She finally looked at me, really looked, and said, "It's our dream house, Ethan. Don't you think it's worth it? Our dream house." The irony almost made me laugh. "Of course," I replied, forcing a smile that felt like a mask glued to my face. "Whatever you think is best." And the look of relief that passed over her features, that was the moment everything crystallized. It wasn't the marble. It wasn't the countertop. It was me. Me not asking questions. Me being predictable, dependable Ethan. The man who would fund her fantasy while being kept in the dark. That's when I knew. I knew I was married to a stranger. But I didn't blow up. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. Because I understood something more dangerous than betrayal was happening. I was being played. And if she was playing a game, then I needed to learn the rules. So I watched. I listened. And I planned. Because silence is a language all its own. I became a ghost in my own home. Quiet. Invisible. Watchful. I played my role to perfection, the overworked husband, too tired to ask questions, too trusting to notice the signs that were now flashing in neon. Every morning I kissed her cheek goodbye, and every evening I nodded along as she shared updates on backsplash tiles and Cole's ideas for the deck. I didn't push. I didn't pry. But inside, I was sharpening every instinct that years of love had dulled. I started leaving for work at the usual time but parking a block away and circling back on foot. The first day, nothing. The second, I heard her voice from the bedroom window, low, private, flirty. I moved closer, staying hidden in the shadow of the fence line. "I know." "I can't wait either," she whispered. "He's completely clueless. Always buried in blueprints and spreadsheets. It's like I don't even exist half the time." My heart didn't just sink, it plummeted into a black pit. I hadn't heard her laugh like that in months. Not with me. But now she was giggling like a teenager. "God, Cole, the things you say." Then she added, "Tomorrow's perfect. He's got that client dinner. I'll bring the updated house plans." Updated house plans. She was taking them to him. The implications came crashing down at once. It wasn't just an affair. It was a partnership, a plan. Cole Whitaker, the contractor we hired to build our dream home, was sleeping with my wife. And from the sound of it, helping her plan something behind my back. I walked away that day with my fists clenched so tight my nails cut into my palms. My entire world had shifted, but on the surface, I said nothing. I let her serve dinner that night like nothing had changed. I let her kiss me goodnight with those same lips that whispered secrets to another man. But I didn't sleep. Over the next week, I became meticulous. I recorded everything: dates, times, words, behavior. I created a locked document on my personal laptop. Sloane's late returns. Her phone calls behind closed doors. Sudden bursts of shopping. Her obsession with the house details that came directly from Cole's mouth. Cole says we should expand the master bathroom. Cole found the perfect tile. Cole thinks a hot tub would be a great addition to the deck. Cole. 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 The man was living in our marriage by proxy. And I had no doubt, soon enough, he'd be living in my house. Even at work, I was falling apart. My boss, Harold, pulled me aside after a half-baked client pitch and said, "This isn't like you, Ethan. What's going on?" I gave him the safest answer I could: marriage trouble. Nothing I can't handle. He nodded, Try to be kind. Been there. Just don't lose the Wilson account. That one keeps our lights on. That night, I called Derek, college friend, now a bitter divorcee who'd lost everything in his settlement. You need evidence, he said immediately. Vermont's a no-fault state, but trust me, if she's planning something with that guy, you better have your ass covered. Texts. Photos. Statements. And document every damn detail. He was right. I needed more than suspicion. I needed the kind of proof that left no room for denial, no space for her to manipulate or spin the narrative. And then it happened. The opportunity landed in my lap like a grenade with the pin already pulled. She left her laptop open. Just 10 minutes. She was in the shower, the steam humming behind the bathroom door. A message preview pinged in the corner of the screen. Cole Whitaker, can't wait to see you tomorrow. Your husband still clueless? My hands moved before I could stop them. I clicked into the thread. What I found wasn't just betrayal, it was a blueprint for a clean heist. The texts were vulgar, yes, but what chilled me was the strategy. They were planning. Calculating. Trying to convince me to fund additions. Trying to ensure I'd sign every document. Once the house was fully funded, once my name was on every loan, she'd file for divorce, cite emotional neglect, and walk away with the dream house, and him. Cole had written, I almost feel bad for the guy. Sloane's reply, don't. He's so obsessed with that house he doesn't see anything. Trust me, he deserves this. 7 years. 7 years of partnership, of commitment, of quiet sacrifices, and that's what she thought of me. That I deserved this? I took screenshots. All of them. Emailed them to myself. Closed the laptop without changing a single window or file. Then I walked to the bathroom door, knocked once, and said, I'm going for a walk. Whatever, she replied over the running water. Don't forget we have dinner with the Whitakers tomorrow night. I walked for hours. The summer air felt cold against my skin, and every step was fueled by a mixture of rage and clarity. I didn't cry. Not this time. I wasn't sad anymore. I was done mourning. Now, I was planning. If she was building a trap, I would be the one to burn the blueprint. And when I walked back into the house, the one we called ours, I knew one thing for certain. This wouldn't end in confrontation. It would end in silence. My silence. Her confusion. And then, collapse. The next morning, I called in sick for the first time in 3 years. My voice was steady as I spoke to Harold, calm, detached. I told him I needed the day. What I didn't say was that I wasn't sick with the flu. I was sick with betrayal, with the realization that everything I'd been building was a lie. As soon as Sloane left for the office, I picked up the phone and made 3 calls. The first was to Owen, my old college roommate, now a financial advisor with a reputation for discretion. Ethan? Been a while. How's that dream house coming along? I didn't answer that. I need to make some urgent changes to my finances, I said instead. And I need them quiet. Can we meet today? A pause, then, come in this afternoon. 2 hours later, I was in his downtown office, sitting across from a man I hadn't seen in years but now trusted more than the woman I shared a bed with. Owen reviewed the numbers. You've been diligent, he said. Most of the savings came from your income, and you've documented it well. Legally, you can withdraw your share. It won't be the full joint amount, but it'll be substantial. I nodded. Do it. Move it to a new bank. One she doesn't know about. He studied my face. Everything okay, Ethan? Not yet, I said. but it will be. My second call was to Evelyn Grant, one of the best divorce attorneys in Riverbend. Her office was sleek, sterile, all glass and sharp angles, like a warning to anyone who thought they could play games in her presence. She listened as I laid it all out, the messages, the house, the plan. "You want to file first," she said, more a statement than a question. "Yes. And I want to protect what's mine. I don't want revenge, I want peace." She gave a single, sharp nod. "Then we move quickly. Secure your finances, which you started. Document everything. Find a place to stay. When you're ready, we file." The third call I made was the most personal, a quiet request for personal leave from work, beginning Friday. Friday, the day we were scheduled to sign the final house papers. The day we were supposed to toast with champagne and step into our new life. I was going to let her believe everything was fine. I was going to play along, right until the end. Over the next few days, I kept up the act. I played the doting husband, asked questions about flooring, discussed layouts, pretended to debate wall colors. Every evening, I sat beside her on the couch while she scrolled through Pinterest boards and said things like, "This is going to be our forever home." She'd smile, kiss my cheek, talk about how lucky we were. It was all performance, hers and mine. But only one of us knew the curtain was about to fall. Thursday night, while she slept, I packed 2 suitcases. Just the essentials. Clothes. Documents. A few photographs that mattered to me, mostly from before Sloan was even in my life. I loaded them into my car, parked a block away. I'd already signed the lease on a furnished apartment across town, nothing extravagant, just a place to breathe. A place that was mine. That night, she curled up next to me, her fingers brushing my chest like nothing had changed. "Tomorrow's the big day," she whispered. "After everything, we're finally doing it." I kissed her forehead. "Yes," I murmured. "Tomorrow changes everything." She fell asleep smiling. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I ever thought I knew her. Wondering if she'd always been this person, or if something had twisted along the way. But I didn't let myself spiral. I'd already done the grieving. That night wasn't about heartbreak. It was about precision. Clarity. Closure. Friday morning, she was buzzing with excitement, more affectionate than she'd been in weeks. "I laid out your blue suit," she said, adjusting my tie like a proud partner. "Cole says the builder's bringing champagne." Of course he was. I smiled. "I'll meet you there. Just need to swing by the office for those updated sketches." "Perfect," she said, grabbing her purse. "I'll get there early, make sure everything's ready." She kissed me goodbye like a woman in love with a fantasy. And I let her go. I walked through the aisles slowly. I didn't take much. Just what I needed. I ran my hand along the kitchen counter, the wall we painted together, the living room where we'd once dreamed of a Christmas tree and kids tearing through presents. All of it lies now. Beautiful, handcrafted lies. Then I left. By 2:30 p.m., 30 minutes after the scheduled signing, I was seated at a coffee shop across town. My phone started lighting up like a fire alarm. 6 missed calls from Sloan. 3 from a number I didn't recognize, but I knew it had to be Cole. Then the texts poured in. "Where are you? Everyone's waiting. This isn't funny. Call me right now." At 3 o'clock, I picked up. "Hello, Sloan." "Ethan, where the hell are you?" "We're all here." The builder, the designer, Cole came to help with technical questions. "Everyone's waiting." I could hear the panic. Not just frustration, dread. She knew. Not everything. But enough. I'm not coming. What? What do you mean? This is our dream home. No. It was my dream. My future. My money. And I've decided to invest it elsewhere. Silence. Then a brittle, cracking voice. Ethan, you're scaring me. What are you talking about? You should check our joint account. You'll notice a withdrawal. A substantial one. My contribution. Another silence, longer this time. I imagined her fingers fumbling her phone, opening the app, watching the number drain from her face. You can't do this, she whispered. I already have. But the builder, the deposit, Cole, everyone's here. That sounds like a problem for you and Cole to solve. A sharp inhale. That was it. The moment she knew. Yes, Sloane. I know about Cole. I know about everything. Ethan, I can explain. Don't bother. I'm sorry. It wasn't like that. He manipulated me. He said things. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to lock the door. This was a plan. A scam. I saw the messages. Silence. Then a choked accusation. You read my private messages? I laughed, bitter and hollow. That's rich. You're planning to rob me blind and you're mad about privacy? Ethan, wait. I hung up. I didn't want to hear another word. And for the first time in weeks, I felt free. What followed was chaos. And I watched all of it from a distance, untouched, unmoved, unbothered. After I hung up on her, the messages came like a flood. Sloane called again and again until I blocked her number. Then came the emails. Then her friends. Lorna, a mutual acquaintance, showed up at my office lobby asking to speak to me. I agreed to meet her for coffee only because I knew she'd keep trying if I didn't. She's a mess, Ethan, Lorna said, cupping her latte like it was a lifeline. She cries all the time. Says she made a huge mistake. That it was just an affair. That Cole manipulated her. I stared at her, expressionless. Did she tell you about the plan to take the house? Lorna looked down. She said it was just talk. That she would have never gone through with it. And you believe that? Her silence was answer enough. Cole, of course, vanished. The moment the house deal imploded and the money disappeared, so did he. Through the grapevine, I heard he'd moved on to a new client, older, wealthy, recently divorced. His pattern was clear. Sloane had just been a stepping stone. I'm not sure if that made her feel better or worse. Either way, she was alone now. And it was only beginning. She started telling people I'd lost my mind. That I'd become paranoid, controlling. That I had some kind of breakdown. At first, it stung. But then I realized, let her talk. Let her spin her version of the story. The truth would outlive the lies. I had the receipts. And more importantly, I had peace. The divorce process wasn't easy. Evelyn warned me, she's going to fight. When someone loses control, they either retreat or they attack. She was right. Sloane contested everything. Her lawyer painted me as a cold, career-obsessed workaholic who neglected his wife emotionally and drove her into the arms of another man. Evelyn responded by laying out the text messages. The screenshots. The timeline. The calculated betrayal. My meticulous records, emails, calls, money trails dismantled the image Sloane was trying to project. It was brutal, emotionally draining, but necessary. The hardest day was the deposition. Sitting across the table from her, the woman I once thought I'd grow old with, and watching her avoid my eyes as she was forced to answer for the things she'd done. She looked different. Hollow. Smaller somehow. Her cheekbones sharper, her clothes looser. She wasn't wearing her usual perfect makeup. Her hands trembled as she picked at the label on her water bottle. "Mr. Parker," her attorney began, "would you say your career took priority over your marriage?" I didn't flinch. I'd say I prioritized our future. I worked to build the life we both said we wanted. The life she told me she wanted. "And how many hours a week did you work?" 55, on average. "That's more than full-time, correct?" It was necessary. We had a vision. A house. A future. A future you ultimately abandoned. Evelyn cut in smoothly, "Objection. Mr. Parker did not abandon anything. He declined to participate in a fraudulent scheme." There was a recess. Evelyn stepped away to take a call, and for a brief moment, I was alone with Sloane in the hallway. She approached me slowly, like I was something fragile or dangerous. "Ethan," she said, barely above a whisper. "This is ridiculous. We're spending thousands on lawyers. We could just talk. Fix this. Please." I said nothing. I just stared. "I made a mistake," she said. "The biggest mistake of my life. But 7 years together has to mean something. We can go to therapy. Start fresh." Her eyes were wet, wide, desperate. "There's nothing to fix, Sloane. I saw who you really are. I believe you now." "That wasn't me," she insisted. "That was a moment of weakness. That was me being scared." I leaned in slightly. "Which version of you told Cole I deserved to be robbed? Which one planned to divorce me the second the ink dried on the mortgage? Was that weakness, or just who you really are?" She flinched. "I never would have gone through with it. Save it. For the judge." Weeks passed. Motions filed. Hearings scheduled. And then, late one night, she emailed me. A long, rambling message, equal parts apology and self-justification. She wrote about how it started as innocent flirting. How Cole made her feel seen again. How it spiraled. How she'd lost control. She said she never stopped loving me. That she missed our life. That she missed me. "Please, Ethan," she wrote. "Don't throw away what we had. I know I don't deserve it. But I'm begging you, please talk to me." I read it twice. I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just a vast, peaceful emptiness. Like someone had drained the last drop of feeling from a wound that had finally closed. At the firm, things took an unexpected turn. Harold called me into his office one Friday. "You're getting the Wilson Eco Resort project," he said, sliding over the file. "Full creative control. Triple your standard fee." I blinked. "Why me?" "Because," he said, "your work these last few months has been the best I've ever seen from you." Then, more quietly, "Funny, isn't it? Sometimes when everything falls apart personally, the professional side soars." I nodded. I understood that all too well. My creativity had returned like a tidal wave. With no more energy wasted on pretending, I'd thrown myself into design. Into the quiet precision of lines, space, balance. The clarity that came from being done with illusion. I rented a small apartment downtown. Clean. Minimalist. No ghosts in the walls. No lies in the closets. Just peace. And that's when I saw her again. Clara Mason, the structural engineer I'd worked with a year ago on a community center project. We reached for the same blueberry muffin at the coffee shop around the corner. She laughed that quick, bright laugh I remembered. Ethan Parker. I almost didn't recognize you without your sketches and floor plans. Clara, I said, surprised by how warm my voice sounded. How's the center holding up? Solid, she smiled. Thanks to your designs. We shared a table. We talked. At first, it was shop talk. Then it wasn't. She told me she'd ended things with her boyfriend months ago, something about gambling and broken trust. I told her about Sloan. About Cole. About the house that never was. And at one point, Clara tilted her head and said, "You don't sound bitter." I shrugged. Bitterness requires energy. I'm fresh out. She smiled and said something I'll never forget, then maybe you're finally free. And for the first time, I believed it. Clara and I began to orbit each other cautiously, like two people recovering from storms, careful not to mistake calm for safety. We met for coffee again. Then dinner. Then weekend walks through neighborhoods we admired for their architecture. She'd talk about load-bearing walls and material stress limits. I'd counter with light angles and thermal dynamics. She challenged me, corrected me, respected me. There were no games. No blurred lines. Just two people speaking the same language: design, honesty, restraint. It wasn't dating, not at first. Just two wounded professionals rebuilding themselves side by side. But something was growing there, beneath the surface. Something real. The Wilson project brought us together officially. She was brought on as consulting engineer, and from there, we fell into a rhythm. We'd meet in the evenings to go over plans, then linger over takeout. She'd ask about my ideas for a house of my own. Not the one I was going to build with Sloan, something entirely mine. You ever gonna design that for yourself? She asked one night as we sat in my apartment, half-empty pizza box between us. Maybe, I said. Something smaller. Simpler. A house built with intention, not illusion. She leaned back, arms crossed. I'd like to see that plan someday. Professionally, of course. Of course, I smiled, but we both knew it wasn't just professional curiosity anymore. The night of the Wilson Project presentation, the entire team went out to celebrate. The clients had loved our vision. We were high on creative triumph and champagne. In the dim corner of that bar, Clara kissed me. It was unexpected, but not impulsive. There was purpose in it. A quiet clarity. But I froze, just for a second. It had been so long since someone touched me without manipulation. Too soon? She asked gently, reading my pause. Maybe, I admitted. Still rewiring my circuitry. She nodded, completely unbothered. Just don't rewire too much, she said. I like your original circuits. And that was it, no pressure, no overthinking. Just a promise of something patient. 3 days later, Sloan appeared outside my building. She was thinner, her once perfect appearance frayed around the edges. She stood as I approached, hands clasped like a child facing punishment. Thank you for not calling security, she said quietly. What do you want, Sloan? I kept my distance. Just to talk. Face to face. Please. I gave her 5 minutes. That's all I had left to offer her. She talked fast, her words tumbling over each other, about therapy, about guilt, about finally understanding what she'd done. "I lost the house, but losing you, that was worse," she said, voice cracking. "I didn't realize how steady you were. How much I took that for granted." "Yes," I said coldly. "You did." She admitted to sabotaging things when they got too real. Too permanent. Claimed Cole preyed on that fear. That she got caught in a fantasy. It was a mistake. A terrible mistake. But 6 years, Ethan. 6 years can't just disappear. They didn't, I replied. They taught me everything I needed to know about who you are. Her eyes pleaded. I could earn back your trust. I'd spend the rest of my life doing it. You already spent years lying, I said. You don't get a lifetime to fix it. She reached for my hand. I stepped back. Please, she whispered. We were good once. No, I corrected. I was good. You were convenient. And now I see the difference. Her face broke. I still love you. But you never respected me. And without that, love is just a story you tell yourself to feel better about your betrayal. I checked my watch. Your 5 minutes are up. And I walked away. Not triumphant. Not bitter. Just done. Later that night, I met Clara for dinner. Over pasta and wine, I told her about the encounter. How did it feel? She asked, twirling noodles on her fork. Like seeing a stranger, I said. Someone I used to know. Clara nodded slowly. That's a healthy answer. Better than hate. Hate would mean I still cared, I said. But I don't. Not about who she actually is. I only mourned who I thought she was. Clara studied me across the table. And what now? Now, I said, I think it's time to design something new. 6 months later, we broke ground on the house. Not the one from the dream. Not the one Sloan and I spent years fantasizing about. This one was smaller, grounded, sustainable. Built into the hillside instead of towering over it. Passive solar, natural materials, functional elegance. Clara had helped improve some of the structural elements. It had become a quiet collaboration, though the vision remained mine. On the day the excavator dug the first trench, we stood together, watching as the foundation took shape. Nervous? She asked. Excited, I said. It finally feels right. She studied the concrete forms and nodded. Foundation looks solid. I looked at her. I had expert advice. We weren't rushing anything. We still had separate places. Still operated with patience and mutual respect. But more and more of her belongings made their way to my house. A drawer. A coat. A coffee mug she refused to drink from unless it was the right one. One afternoon over coffee, she said casually, "It's kind of stupid to keep paying rent on a place I barely sleep in." I didn't look up. Just said, "Then don't." She raised an eyebrow. "Are you asking me to move in, Parker?" "I'm making a responsible suggestion about resource allocation," I said with mock seriousness. Very romantic. I could draw up a proposal. Include renderings. Cost analysis. Load distribution. She threw a napkin at me. "You're impossible." Is that a yes? It's a let me think about it. But I already knew. She was home. Even if she hadn't unpacked fully yet. 1 year after we broke ground, I moved into the finished home. It wasn't the sprawling dream estate with the wine cellar and the wraparound porch that Sloane and I once fantasized about. No. This house was honest. Every line, every window, every material had a purpose. It was warm but minimal, open but grounded. A wide front porch overlooked a quiet stream that shimmered in the afternoon light. The master bedroom faced east with floor-to-ceiling windows that bathed the space in gold every morning. And in what was once meant to be a guest room, Clara had installed her drafting desk beside mine. Her name wasn't on the deed. Not yet. But her fingerprints were everywhere, in the angles of the kitchen island, in the flooring she argued for, in the shelf she claimed for her tea collection. We were still taking things slow, deliberately. But she was here. And she belonged. I saw Sloane one more time. Almost a year after our divorce was finalized. It was at a mutual friend's wedding. She arrived with a quiet man in glasses, someone who looked like he read more than he spoke. We exchanged a few words, polite, hollow. She looked different. Lighter, somehow. Not happy, but not haunted anymore either. When she walked away, Clara joined me. She'd seen the interaction from across the room. "Ex-wife?" she asked, voice low. "Yeah," I nodded. "And nothing. I meant it." She was part of a blueprint I'd torn up and thrown away. Clara laced her arm through mine. Good answer, architect. 2 years to the day after I heard the words, "Don't touch me, Ethan," I stood on my porch watching the sun melt into the trees. I didn't think about revenge or loss anymore. I thought about foundations. How I'd built this place from the ground up, not just the house, but the man I had to become to stand in it. Clara stepped outside with 2 glasses of wine, handing one to me as she leaned on the railing. "Penny for your thoughts?" "Just appreciating the view," I said, wrapping my arm around her shoulder. She smiled, her head resting lightly against me. Some clichés, I realized, existed for a reason. Inside, dinner warmed in the oven. The scent of rosemary and garlic drifted into the air between us, a quiet symbol of the domestic rhythm we'd fallen into. That morning, Clara had mentioned, casually, the impracticality of keeping her apartment. I, just as casually, suggested she didn't have to. "Are you asking me to move in, Parker?" She'd asked again, this time without the eyebrow. "I'm making a very efficient case for resource optimization," I'd said. "You're lucky I'm fluent in engineer," she smiled. "I've decided your proposal has merit." "Is that engineer speak for yes?" "It is." "But, Ethan," she turned serious, eyes searching. "I'm not Sloane. I won't ever be Sloane. I need you to be sure you're not just rebuilding what you lost." I took her hand, placed it over my chest. What I lost wasn't real. What I'm building now is. 3 years after everything collapsed, Clara and I stood under the maple tree we planted when the house was finished. It had taken root quickly, its leaves a riot of crimson and gold that fall. Much like us, something new, something grounded. I led her into my home office and handed her a small velvet box. Her eyes widened as she opened it to find a ring, simple, elegant, understated. "This isn't a proposal," I said quickly. "This is a preliminary design review." She laughed, that open, fearless laugh that still managed to surprise me. "Only you would introduce a ring with architecture metaphors." "I just want you to know I've thought this through," I told her. "What happened with Sloane, it's not a wound anymore. It's just a scar. A reminder to build better." She ran her thumb over the ring. "And this would be the better build?" "The best one," I said. "Because this time, it's with someone who checks the structure before putting up the walls. Someone who understands the difference between facade and foundation." She held the ring but didn't put it on. That's a lot of pressure, she whispered. Being someone's solid ground. We're each other's, I said. That's the difference. She looked at me for a long time, then finally, yes. My professional assessment is that this design meets and exceeds all code requirements. I laughed, sliding the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. I'd measured while she was asleep. That night, lying beside her, I thought about how sometimes the best things in life are built from the rubble of what tried to destroy us. I had nearly lost everything, my home, my dignity, my sense of self. But in losing the dream I once clung to, I found something better. Something solid. Something mine. Not every demolition is a tragedy. Some make way for masterpieces. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, shocked you, or simply made you think, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment, your thoughts, your story, your truth. Subscribe for more raw, real, and unforgettable confessions. And if this story made you feel seen, share it. Someone else might need to hear it too. You're not alone here. This channel is a safe space for those who've been betrayed, broken, and rebuilt.